2 words. Just 2 words, and Britain hasn't seen a storm like this in decades. Nasty person. They slipped from Donald Trump's lips with an icy calm, but the shockwaves they sent tearing through London are still reverberating across the nation. It begins the moment Air Force One glides down onto the runway at Heathrow. The air itself feels charged, crackling with the kind of anticipation only a major political spectacle can summon. Reporters surge forward, cameras flash like 1,000 lightning bolts, and the security cordon stretches out for miles. This is no ordinary state visit, this is theatre, scripted in gold and shadow. The press pack wastes no time. First question fired across the tarmac, "Mr. President, what about your relationship with London's mayor?" Trump doesn't pause, doesn't blink. His reply is surgical, clipped, cold, merciless. Sadiq Khan is a nasty person who's done a terrible job running London. The words land like a thunderclap. Within minutes, social media is ablaze. Hashtags explode globally, #NastyKhan climbs the trending lists at frightening speed. Television anchors scramble to fill airtime, pundits drag files from dusty drawers, and production teams bark into earpieces as they cut live to correspondence. But here's where it gets interesting. While the headlines fixate on Trump's brutal insult, the real story is unfolding quietly, far away from the noise, behind palace walls. Khan's reaction is swift, almost rehearsed. Within hours he's on every major news network, BBC, Sky, CNN, international channels hungry for a soundbite. His line never wavers: Trump is divisive, dangerous, the very embodiment of everything wrong with modern politics. From the steps of City Hall he strikes a pose of moral authority. His voice blends indignation with wounded pride. London remains open. We welcome Americans who want to escape the divisiveness of Trump's politics. Our city thrives because of diversity and the rule of law. On the surface, it sounds noble, principled even. But scratch beneath that varnish and a very different London emerges. The city's knife crime statistics, released only days earlier, reveal a grim picture, a 5-year high, with 17 teenagers stabbed to death in just the past 6 months. Transport strikes have ground the underground into chaos, forcing millions to claw for alternate routes to work. Housing costs have spiraled so violently that even middle-class families are being priced out of neighborhoods they've lived in for generations. Stroll through Borough Market on a Saturday morning and the shopkeepers will tell you themselves, 3 break-ins this month alone, police taking over an hour to respond. And yet in Khan's office, aides are poring over Trump's tweets, strategizing comebacks, polishing statements for rolling news cycles. And here lies the twist. When the President of the United States brands London's mayor a nasty man, the expected chorus of outrage doesn't quite materialize. Instead, a surprising number of Londoners find themselves quietly nodding. Not because they admire Trump, but because, however much they might despise the messenger, they recognize a shard of truth in his words. This is where the story takes a turn from insult to symbolism. While Khan is still shuttling between television studios, defending his record with carefully phrased soundbites, Donald Trump is stepping into a scene that could have been lifted straight from a history book. Golden hour at Windsor Castle. The world's oldest occupied fortress, its cobblestones echoing with nearly 1,000 years of power. Horse-drawn carriages glide across the courtyard, their wheels clattering like drums announcing an arrival. Out steps Donald Trump, not as the divisive figure so often portrayed in headlines, but as the honored guest of His Majesty King Charles III. The optics are devastating for Khan. While he's fielding questions about knife crime and tube strikes, Trump is dining beneath glittering chandeliers with Britain's monarch. While Khan's approval ratings are sliding to historic lows, Trump is being escorted through London by the household cavalry, plumes and breastplates catching the light in full ceremonial splendor. And it isn't just ceremony. Watch closely the footage of the banquet. Charles appears at ease, leaning in as he speaks with Trump, eyes bright, tone almost cheerful. Compare that to the stiff, formal handshakes the king has so often offered domestic politicians. Courtiers, speaking quietly on condition of anonymity, suggest Charles was impressed by Trump's bluntness. The king appreciates candor, one insider reveals. After years of politicians who say one thing in public and another in private, Trump's consistency is oddly refreshing. Every gesture, every camera angle, tells a story. Trump treated as a statesman of weight and consequence, Khan treated as an afterthought. The mayor's name wasn't even on the guest list. No invitation, no reception line, nothing. A silence louder than any insult. Meanwhile, Khan's inner circle is in meltdown. Internal polling, quietly circulated among advisors, shows his approval rating among Londoners crashing to just 31%, the lowest since he first took office. Even Labour MPs, once eager to stand shoulder to shoulder with the mayor, are beginning to edge away. The whispers in Westminster are sharp, he's become a liability. Some MPs admit privately they fear being dragged down by association. As one senior backbencher confided off-camera, if Khan keeps sinking, he'll pull the rest of us with him. We can't afford to look weak going into the next election. And then comes the banquet itself, a brutal piece of theatre. While Khan is left pacing City Hall corridors, Trump and King Charles are locked in discussions about trade deals worth hundreds of billions, defense cooperation, cultural exchange programs, real, tangible matters shaping the lives of millions. Khan's absence is glaring. He wasn't simply overlooked, he wasn't considered relevant. That omission speaks louder than any press release. It isn't just protocol, it's a message. Britain's serious partners dine at Windsor. London's mayor, apparently, does not. The ripple effects begin immediately. American corporations that once considered London as their first port of call are now dialing straight into Whitehall and Embassy lines, bypassing City Hall entirely. Executives from Goldman Sachs shift a $2 billion infrastructure consultation from Khan's office to direct government negotiation. JP Morgan's expansion plans, once a feather in London's cap, are suddenly being brokered at state level. The implication is chilling. If you want to do business with Britain in 2025, you talk to those who matter. And for the moment, Sadiq Khan isn't on that list. Khan, of course, tries to spin the moment into a moral victory. His social feeds flood with photographs of London's diversity, smiling crowds, international festivals, cultural banners stretched across South Bank. He talks of tolerance, of openness, of the city as a beacon against Trump's divisiveness. But posters and platitudes don't fix broken trains. They don't calm terrified parents whose children are caught up in knife crime. They don't ease the crushing weight of housing costs forcing families out of neighborhoods they've known for decades. And Londoners, watching their bills climb and their commutes collapse, are starting to see the gap between Khan's rhetoric and their reality. The numbers tell the story more starkly than any speech. Youth unemployment in the city's poorest boroughs has soared by 23% under Khan's watch. Business relocations out of central London are up by a third. Tourist complaints about safety and cleanliness, up 45%. And yet, Khan's office boasts of one metric on the rise, his Twitter engagement. For many, it feels insulting. Glossy social posts about values while crime rises on their doorsteps. Moral posturing when they're locked out of affordable housing. As Trump basks in royal ceremony, Khan looks increasingly like a man fighting shadows, battling hashtags instead of solving crises. Even the protests against Trump backfire. Yes, banners condemn the American president, chants echo down Whitehall. But listen closely and you hear something louder, more urgent: Khan out. Fix our city. Stop the crime. The fury isn't really about America. It's about London's own failures, condensed into one man's record. And in that moment, Sadiq Khan becomes less a rival to Trump than a symbol, a case study in everything voters feel progressive politics has failed to deliver. In Westminster's darker corridors, the whispers grow louder. Senior conservatives admit, sometimes through gritted teeth, that the contrast is humiliating. The mayor of our capital city is seen as a joke by world leaders, one cabinet minister confides privately. Meanwhile, Trump is treated like visiting royalty. It's a brutal truth: Trump commands respect on the global stage, while Khan struggles to command it in his own city. For Tory MPs, the optics are embarrassing. For Labour, they are catastrophic. The royal household understands this better than anyone. Centuries of constitutional tradition prevent King Charles from criticizing elected officials outright, but body language, staging, and ceremony do the talking. When Trump arrives, he receives the full pageantry, the household cavalry gleaming in the sun, the banquet gilded in history, the kind of ceremonial embrace reserved only for Britain's most important allies. To the outside world, it's protocol. But to those watching closely, it's more. It's a signal. The monarchy knows where the weight of power lies. They gave Trump the golden welcome not just because tradition demanded it, but because reality demanded it. America's president represents leverage, trade, and strategic security. London's mayor represents what, exactly? Tweets? Press releases? A city creaking under basic governance? The optics are devastatingly simple. Trump stands shoulder to shoulder with the king. Khan stands outside the gates. And yet, that subtle choreography speaks volumes. For all the talk of a modern Britain moving beyond pomp and hierarchy, the ancient institution of monarchy still commands more respect and, crucially, more relevance than progressive experiments that can't deliver results. Quiet competence beats loud activism. Continuity outshines rhetoric. As Trump's Air Force One roars off the Heathrow runway, the dust it leaves behind isn't just jet fuel, it's a political landscape rearranged beyond recognition. Khan, once eager to present himself as a global progressive leader, now looks smaller, diminished, almost irrelevant. His approval ratings scrape historic lows, his speeches ring hollow, his promises collapse under the weight of London's lived reality. Even Labour MPs begin to edge away, fearful that his shadow could drag them down in elections to come. Parliament, meanwhile, appears distracted, trapped in its own rituals, missing the seismic shifts occurring right under its nose. The palace, thought by many to be ceremonial relics of a bygone age, emerges from this drama as the only British institution that truly grasps the dynamics of modern power. Tradition triumphs, not through nostalgia but through a deep understanding of continuity and symbolism. The public can see it, too. On the streets, the chants grow sharper, Khan out. Fix our city. Stop the crime. It isn't really about Trump. It isn't even about America. It's about Britain itself, about leadership, accountability, and the frustration of a people who feel abandoned by those meant to represent them. So the question isn't whether Donald Trump was right to call Khan nasty. The question is darker, more unsettling: why did it take an American president to say aloud what millions of Britons were already whispering? Why does our own political class refuse to confront the gap between rhetoric and reality? Because this saga, this royal banquet, this insult at a press podium, this clash between pomp and populism isn't just about one mayor or one insult. It's about something much larger: the failure of progressive politics to deliver results, the growing irrelevance of hollow virtue signaling, and the quiet resurgence of institutions that understand power for what it really is. And as the contrails of Trump's plane fade into the twilight sky, Britain is left with a sobering truth: power doesn't wait for speeches or hashtags. It gathers where it is respected. In Washington. In Windsor. And far away from City Hall.